Hey everybody, Ron here. Welcome to the LostTrailRunner Podcast. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. The LostTrailRunner Podcast is produced every 2 weeks, maybe. At least that's my goal. The show notes are found at LostTrailRunner.com. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow me on Twitter at LostTrailRunner and on Facebook. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get on with the show. Well, welcome to episode 132 of the LostTrailRunner Podcast. I have had a long break. The last time I recorded was prior to the COVID pandemic, and I think my podcast was put out on March 30th. That was the last one I put out, episode 131, and now here we are, episode 132, and this is October 1st. That's a long time, and the COVID thing's still going on. I thought it would have been over a long time ago, but it didn't. So, here we are. Well, I got a lot of stuff to talk about, and I'm probably not that organized like usual, but I guess we'll start in April of this year. I was supposed to run a race at Disney with my daughter, and right about the time I put the last podcast out, we got an email from Disney saying they had canceled the race totally. They didn't change it to virtual or anything. They just canceled it. It was a Star Wars race in April. So they just refunded our hotel, our registration. But we had bought some tickets to go to the park, and they didn't refund those. They just told us we could use them the next time we came, so I feel like I got had on that. But I guess they're good. I mean, they're not going to disappear or anything. So at some point, I'm going to have to go back down to Disney. And I had wanted to run the Wine and Dine 5K in November at Disney, but it had been closed out. Well, it turns out they converted that particular race to a 5K virtual that I was going to do, so that I wanted to do, but it was closed out. So I registered for that, and so did my daughter. So we're going to do the Disney Wine and Dine 5K somewhere around here. I don't know if we're going to do it at Stone Mountain, or Lilburn Park, Mountain Park, Livonia. Somewhere in Northeast Georgia, we're going to do the Disney Wine and Dine 5K virtual. On November, I think, November 6th or November 7th. So that's kind of weird. I don't know why they didn't change the Star Wars into a virtual, but they didn't. Maybe it didn't cross their mind at the time. It was such a shock that everything was being shut down. So, anyway, after everything was closed down, Aravaipa, I don't know if you've heard of that, Jamil Khoury runs Aravaipa Running. He's out in Phoenix, Arizona. He converted, I think, most of his trail races to virtual races. And his first one he added was a new run. It wasn't a run that he already had. It was called Aravaipa Strong Virtual. And I registered for that and ran it on April 18th. And it was a 5K. I'm only doing 5Ks. When I do these short runs, I'm doing 5Ks. I think the longest run is going to be when I do Peachtree. And I haven't decided about the Galloway Half yet. And I don't know if they're going to be able to run it or not. So I'm just kind of waiting to see what's happening there. But anyway, I ran that virtual 5K on April 18th, and I ran a 39:49, which is not rocket speed, but I mean, I was running by myself and I just was enjoying it. And I got a t-shirt and I got a medal and all that stuff for running it, so it was good. And then on May 22nd, my daughter had talked me into registering for the Bigfoot Running Challenge 5K. And so I did that, and we ran that together down at Lilburn Park. And I ran a 37:59 for that 5K, so I actually got faster, right? But I was running with somebody then, and I ended up coming in second place in my age group. They actually had placed, your position. So I came in second in my age group in that 5K. And then finally, September 26th, which was only last week, Dirty Spokes, which has a trail run series here in the northeast Georgia area, had an actual trail race out at Harbin's Park. It was a 5K and 10K, and of course I did the 5K, and it was actually in person, a real race. But the catch to it was, previously they only had chips at the finish line. They never had one at the start, so you never really got a chip time. You just got an overall time, and the chip was, at the end. So what they did is they chipped the start and finish, and then they changed. Originally, they were going to change the race into having corrals and then staggered starts. But Gwinnett County, where the race is being held, I don't think would let them do that. So what they ended up doing was doing time trial. The race started at 8, and you could run or start the run anytime between 8 and 9 a.m., as long as there weren't more than 8 people starting at the start line. And then you were to, basically social distance as best you could, which with that time trial like that, I really kind of liked that. I ran it with my daughter, and we had a pretty good run, and I ran a 35:28, so that was faster than the other 2 virtual runs. And I also come in first in my age group. And the thing about that is I figured, since I'm a geezer and pretty old, probably I'd be the only one in my age group. Well, one of the people that I have run against frequently in these trail races, and we've kind of gone back and forth. He's won some and I've won some. He had put on Facebook a couple of months ago that he had retired from racing. So I didn't expect to see him at the race, and I never did until after the race was over. But he ran it, and he was in my age group, and I won. So I came in first. I felt pretty good about that. And I only saw him after the finish when I was going to get my award, because what they didn't have like podium awards like they usually do. You had to go on the web, look up the results, because they were putting the results out like every 10 minutes. And so you go on their website, you could see the results, and then you could go to, by the start-finish line, they had some tables set up, and you could get in a socially distancing line and pick up your award. So I was going to get in that line, and I saw him coming the other way with his second place medal, and said hi to him. But it was good. I liked that race, and it was good to be able to actually go out. And I mean, and there were a lot of people. I think that race was sold out. The parking lot was jam-packed, and there were a lot of people there, but everybody was spaced out. I mean, people weren't crowded on top of each other or anything. So I really had a good run, and in 2 weeks' time, on October 10th, well, less than 2 weeks now, 10 days, they're going to have the Chattahoochee Point Trail Race 5K and 10K. So I went ahead and registered for the 5 and that. And that, I really like that course. I mean, it's probably the easiest trail race to run. It's on a, there's hardly any elevation change. It's by the Chattahoochee River, and it's at Chattahoochee Point Park, and it's the loop trail. It's a loop trail, and it's 3.1 mile loop. So you do one loop and you've got your race in. 2 loops, you got the 10K. And it's really a buffed out trail. It's almost like a crushed rock trail, you know. It's sand, dirt, crushed rock type thing, and it's really non-technical. I mean, it's like running on exercise trail at one of these rails to trails places, but they're concrete and this one isn't. So it's you know, for just having a good time and running a race and not having to worry about technical stuff, it's just fun to run. And last year I ran that race and won my age group, and I think there were 3 or 4 people in my age group last year. So I don't know how it's going to be this year, but we'll see. Okay, now what do we got? As you probably have heard, the Peachtree Road Race was moved to Thanksgiving Day, okay, from July 4th, which is the first time that's ever happened. And then just a month or so ago, I got email, and now they've switched it to a virtual run, and I'm not sure what they're doing. I think they're coming up with some kind of app where you can actually run the thing on the app and have your time, you know. I don't know. I have to see. But anyway, it's going to be a virtual run, and you're going to have to run it in I think there's a certain period of time you've got to run it in. And so that's going to be November 26th, maybe. And as I mentioned before, Laura and myself registered for the Wine and Dine at Disney virtual, which is, I think, November 6th or 7th and that. So we're going to have that 5K, and we haven't decided where we're going to run it. Like I said earlier, we'll probably run it here at Stone Mountain, where, oh, by the way, I'm sitting on a picnic bench at Stone Mountain Park in the woods, in the picnic area over on the east-north side of the mountain. Pretty close to where, I don't know if you ever saw the Netflix series Stranger Things, but they filmed some of Stranger Things out here at the park, and right across the road from where I'm sitting is where the Upside Down was in Stranger Things. And it's kind of weird. It's just when I watched that series, things looked familiar to me. Like one time they were on a railroad track, kind of walking down a railroad track, and I looked at that and I said, I swear that's Stone Mountain. And then when I started checking on it, yeah, they filmed at Stone Mountain, they filmed at Emory, they filmed at a quarry in downtown Atlanta. I mean, I just got sidetracked, right? But anyway, I'm sitting out here at this big picnic area on a Thursday afternoon recording. And I came over here after I walked. Yesterday afternoon, I did a run at Mountain Park late in the afternoon, And today is one of my cross-training days, so I decided I'd come out here and walk on a trail, and I went over on the trail to Muskogee, which is right near the entrance to the park on the east side of the park, the main gate. And there's a 1.5-mile trail over there that's really a rugged trail compared to most trails here in the park. And I ran on it once, a long time ago. So I decided, well, what I'll do is I'll go over there and I'll walk on that trail. And I've got a new GoPro. I don't even want to talk about GoPros. I got too many of them and I don't use them like I should. But anyway, I got a 360 GoPro. And I did some videoing while I was doing that walk. So if it comes out at all, I might put it on YouTube just to do something, I don't know. But anyway, it was a good walk. I mean, it wasn't fast. I mean, it was like a 25-minute pace because it was so much uphill and downhill and so many roots and rocks and stuff like that. But I wasn't going for speed anyway. I was just doing an easy cross-train walk. And I got in over 30 minutes, and that's all I wanted to do. So then after I finished up over there, I went, why don't I just come over here and sit down at a bench and record. I think a deer's coming up into the picnic area. There, 1, 2, 3, 4 deer, 5 deer. They're just moseying across the road. Let me stop. Well, I would stop recording and then get my case looking at me. I can't believe this. 4, 5 deer. They're not humongous deer, but they're just kind of moseying along. Yeah. Probably if they see me move, they'll get spooked and take off. That's kind of cool, though. And they always walk in single file. I don't know why. They all look about the same age. I wonder if they're all, well, there's one a little bit bigger, but they all look like they're young deer. None of them are probably more than a yearling. Cool. Anyway, where was I at? So I've got Chattahoochee Point, which is going to be an in-person race coming up. I've got the Wine and Dine 5K, which is a virtual. And then I got the Peachtree, which is a virtual. And then I'm not sure about the half marathon in December, the Galloway half. What's up with that? And I don't know if I'm going to, now they're looking at me. They're all looking at me like, what are you doing? Hi, dear. Hi. They don't know whether they should run or not. Oh well. So I don't know, what I'm going to do about the half. I like running halves, but I don't like to train for halves. It's kind of like when I used to do the marathon. I didn't like training for the marathon because it was just too much pain in the butt to train for it. Where 10Ks and 5Ks, I can just kind of do my daily runs, do a longer run on the weekend, and I'm good for one of those races without, putting too much effort in it. I'm slowly slacking off from being hardcore. I mean, I haven't been hardcore for probably 8 years now, come right down to it, racing wise, where I really train, I just kind of just run. I enjoy running, and I'll keep running until I drop, which who knows when that'll be. But I like the weather right now. This is October 1st. Right now, it's probably, let's see what my watch says it is. Jeez. It's at 79 degrees right here. That's kind of warm. Yeah, it's 79 right now. It's at 8 o'clock tonight it'll be 66. And then like 3 in the morning it's going to be 55. So it's dropping down, but it's not going to be super cold. But I like running, say 55 degrees and up. I'm not a cold weather runner. I never really was, but I didn't mind it. But now that I'm older and a geezer, the more temperate the weather, the better. You know, it's just the way I am. So I hope that I can get a couple. Maybe I can get a couple of more. The Dirty Spokes races. He's got a ton of those races spread out through the year. And they're all trail races. So I think he's got the Chattahoochee Point one on October 10th. And I'm thinking sometime in November he's got a trail race at Chateau Elan that runs through the vineyard. And the last time I did that race, I had a pulled hamstring, and it was, I think it had a 5-mile race. It might have had a 5K and a 5 mile, something like that. And I did the 5 mile, and it was not comfortable after about a mile and a half. I did some hobbling to finish that race. I managed to finish it, but my time was really bad. And I ended up going to physical therapy to get my hamstring straightened out. I don't know what I did to it, where I pulled it or when I pulled it, but it was that was the last time I did the Chateau Elan race. So I might do that one sometime in November also, because I like running up there in the vineyards. And a long time ago, we're talking back like 1989, 88, in that time frame, they used to have a 5-mile race out there that was a road race that started at the chateau and then went down, I think, the highway and came back. And it was a good, 5K? It was an 8K race. It was a 5-miler. And it was a really good race, and I don't know how many years they had that race, but I really like that. So whenever there's a race at Chateau Elan, I like to do them if I can. So I'll probably register for that trail race, but I'll probably do the 5K version. And I don't know what else. I'm still just kind of waiting to see about that half marathon. And that should pretty much finish my update, because there hadn't been a lot going on between the last time where there's a guy that is walking down the road and those deer saw him and all their ears perked up and they all took off across the road and ran back into the woods on the other side to the upside down. Every last one of them. So I don't know. And the thing is they had to run towards him to go across the road. So we would think if they got spooked, they'd go the other way. But no, they went towards him across the road. So anyway. So where was I? That ought to be my update for now, because between March 30th and now, it's all been COVID, whatever. All you ever hear about is wearing your mask and don't get near people and you can't do this and don't do that. And it's just miserable. But I did finally see my grandson. I've seen him one time since March, right? And I saw him about 3 weeks ago. I finally got to see him. And he's 11 now, and he's going to school virtually. He's got I guess it's a Chromebook, and doing virtual schooling, and he likes it. I mean, but he likes being on a computer anyway, being 11 years old. But last year, at the end of the year, I think that when they ended school, they were doing virtual. He ended up being on the AB honor roll, so he's doing good, even virtually. So, but I think they're back in Charleston, South Carolina again. I mean, they kind of go back and forth because his mother's parents live over, and I think in North Charleston or in that area. So they go over there a lot. And when he's doing virtual schooling, you know, you don't have to just stay in one spot. Just had a drink. My throat was getting dry. So I think I'll shut this thing down and try to put it together and get it out to you. And I'm sorry I haven't put one out in so long, but I just hadn't been in the mood, you know? I mean, I can't say that I was depressed and that's why I didn't do it. It just seemed like nothing was going on. You know, what are you going to talk about when you're sitting at home or riding your bike trainer, which what I'd been doing, and you know, walking on a treadmill, and sometimes going out to Stone Mountain and run a little bit, but mostly, I mean, I don't know how boring these podcasts are to you, but I didn't want to put out a bunch of them that just, you know. Anyway, I'll see you next time, whenever that may be. Okay? Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's podcast. We'll be here next time. Keep the emails coming in and be sure to subscribe.